What's going on, everybody? It is Wednesday. It is Q&A day. We're halfway through the week. Hey, just think of it this way. It's 177 more work days until I start summer vacation. I can't wait. So, a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things in the news with cards. I had a fun weekend last weekend. If you didn't check out the live stream that I did with Theo, Clemente Collector, Darren, Return to Collecting, and Mookie Chilson on Sunday night, check that out on the Four Collectors channel. If you haven't yet seen the Monday, what do we call that? I call it A and Q. It's really my Ask the Audience question. If you haven't checked that out, check that out. Things going on with CT scanners and cards, and there's East Coast Nationals going on, and there's Fanatics Fest, and Tom Brady buying cards at card shows, and Gronk throwing cards around the room. It's crazy time, but hey, it's a fun time too, right? So, as you all know, Wednesdays are the Q&A day where I take a minute to share my thoughts on questions for all of you. Sometimes try to help with some ideas and brainstorming. But one of the questions this week, in fact, the first question, somebody asked a very specific question about a frustration with the hobby. And I'm happy to demonstrate how I counteract that. So that'll be interesting. And but again, 5 great questions this week. If you have a question, if you ever have a question, don't hesitate to ask it in the comments below. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at that first question right here. My question is, how do you take a good picture of your card if you do not have a scanner? I cannot find a place where I do not have some sort of reflection off the front of the encapsulated card. Very frustrating. All right, well, first of all, you're not alone. The glare that constantly is on cards when trying to take a picture is almost impossible to prevent, right? And I know I am certainly a person who has had frustration with that for a long, long time. One of the only good solutions to overcoming that is to buy a scanner. And quite frankly, a scanner is bulky. It takes up a lot of room. It gets in the way. They're not particularly cheap. And so that's not a great option for a lot of us, especially for those of us that have space issues with the amount of space that those would take up. So I have personally looked into this, and it's funny that this question was asked because I recently, within about the last month or so, finally found a solution to this issue for me. Now, I know that there are a lot of creative ways of overcoming this problem. I am going to go ahead and just show you here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, I got my wife to be my camerawoman, to film me as I'm demonstrating how I deal with this. At the same time, I'm screen recording. So I'm going to kind of toggle back and forth, and you'll see me doing this technique to try to eliminate the glare, while I'm also having my wife video me so you can see that perspective as well. So it'll be 2 perspectives at once. I hope it's helpful. I'll have a link in the description down below of the product that I use that allows this problem to be resolved. So let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so the first thing you need is you need a ring light, and you want a ring light that has a stand. And I'll put a link in the description of this video of the one I bought. Doesn't mean it's a great one, but it's the one that I use. So once you get the ring light, you set it up where the item is below the ring light in the middle of the ring light. So I'm going to show you through this phone how that looks. So I just simply get my phone over that, and when I am set here, you will see I can then change it to photo. I could change it to portrait. I like portrait. seems like it's a higher quality video. So what I do is, again, if I zoom out, it is in the middle of the ring light there, okay? And that way there's no glare on it because it is getting the light from around the item. So now I center it on there and I snap the picture. Now that I snap the picture, what I can do is I can edit it by cropping it in. And once I've got it edited, I've now got a photo with very, very little, if any, glare on the actual card, like a lot of us deal with. So that's how I do it. I think it's a good way to do it. So that's my suggestion. So ever since I started doing this, it has really, really helped. Now, I know some people say, oh, Greg, I don't want to buy another light with a stand, and that's big and bulky. True, but what you could do is you could fold it up. You could store it away in a cabinet or a closet or somewhere. And then on the rare occasion that you want to take some of the pictures, you can kind of do it all at once. Or depending on your situation, you can have it permanently set up. But I have found this as a good alternative, a really good alternative to a scanner. Again, I'll have in the description down below a link to the one that I bought. Doesn't mean it's a good one. I mean, I don't know. I just kind of went with what I found on Amazon. I don't get anything out of this. I'm just simply sharing what I purchased, which seems to be working pretty well. So I hope that helps. If not, I tried, but that's what I'm currently doing, and it seems to be working. With that said, let's take a look at our second question here.
Another great Q&A. Love these videos. I did watch your video on comps, and it made me think about one thing that eBay is doing and is supposed to be switching to, so I will question you about it and get your thoughts. The question is this: will shill bidding finally be squashed with eBay going to immediate payment being processed at the end of an auction? Let's hope so.
All right, so this is a really good question, and it's something that I certainly hope can resolve some of the issues. So just to back up briefly, a couple weeks ago, I did a video that looked at shill bidding. And shill bidding is basically when people who aren't planning on actually purchasing an item are bidding on an item to get the price higher. And then if those people who aren't planning on actually buying the item and owning the item end up as the high seller, then they end up just not paying, and then the item ends up relisting. And now what has happened is in the system, we have this new comp that is higher than what someone actually would have paid because this person bid to a level that they were never intending on purchasing and owning the item. So one of the things that eBay has decided to do is offer immediate payment, where what that is you can select it where if you list an item and somebody buys it, it immediately charges them for the item. Now, you would think that in itself would resolve the issue, but I don't think that it does. So yes, in theory, you would think that this would be the answer to the problem of shill bidding. It just automatically charges them. Well, first of all, a shill bidder, what they would do is they would put in an incorrect payment option, right? What they would do is as they're bidding it up, they would put in a credit card information that's expired or a credit card that's wrong. So it would automatically try to charge them, but it wouldn't be able to charge them. So there's always going to be a way around shill bidding. So that account that is bidding items up, if it can't charge them, if it can't process the payment, then we're back to where we started. That's the first thing. The other thing is, as far as I'm aware, and I might be wrong, please correct me in the comments below if I am wrong, that what happens with with this on eBay is it's an option. So I can choose to require immediate payment, or I could not. Now, if I am a person who benefits from shill bidding, then I would simply not choose that, right? I would just leave it as it has been, where somebody can bid and then I charge later. Oops, look at that. The payment didn't go through. And then I can just relist the item. So if somebody is benefiting from shill bidding and somebody is maybe even aware and okay with shill bidding because they benefit from it, then there's no incentive for them to select that option of, yes, oh yeah, let's go ahead and require immediate payment. The assumption is when we see something like that is, well, everybody wouldn't want shill bidding. We all want the bidder to actually buy the item. Well, that's what we think, because we're on the side of the people who are all about buying things that we want and selling things that we actually want to sell. But that's not always the case. So I don't think that this is going to resolve the issue. I don't think that this is going to suddenly prevent it. That is why I think that eBay and some of these big auction houses should be doing more, like blocking accounts, suspending accounts, having things built into the algorithm that makes it where these types of things can be prevented. For example, when I go to the gas station and I run my credit card, it automatically tries to run it for the maximum amount it'll allow me to buy in gas. So, for example, for me, and I go to a place and it runs it, and it automatically tries to charge me $200, even though I'm not going to get $200 in gas. So it runs it, it checks, can this person do $200? Yes, it can. And then as a result, when I buy less than $200 in gas, it only ends up charging me for, say, $100 in gas instead of the $200 that was possible. They do this also when you go to like a car rental place, right? Or a hotel. They'll run it for more than they're actually going to charge you for. It clears, and then it ends up charging you for a lesser amount. It seems like it wouldn't be impossible for an eBay to do something like when you bid, it charges your card and then undoes the charge. But then people say, well, it charges you, but you don't end up with it. Exactly. And that's why they get away with it. So I don't think that this is going to be the solution to the problem. It might help some. It might help buyers it might help sellers, like the average person who doesn't want shill bidding. They just want to sell stuff. It might help a little bit there, but I don't think that this is the permanent solution to the big problem of shill bidding that a lot of companies are kind of looking the other way towards because they benefit from it in things selling for more money.
Hey Greg, hope you're settling back in nicely from the National. Congrats on your Ernie score. I loved the shot you got with you and your buddies in celebration. Couldn't help but smile at that. Question for you regarding your collecting taste. I've noticed you never really show any patch or autographed cards. If you do have either, it would be great to see them. If not, is there something about them that disinterests you? Or is it just that you prefer the classic more? Appreciate the negotiation wisdom and considering my question.
Okay, so autographs, patch cards, all that kind of stuff. Now, why don't I show those things? Is it because I don't have them? No, that's not the case. I do have some. I haven't bought any recently. So let me first just kind of describe how I collect, why I collect that way, and why you don't see that stuff come up a lot. For one, I tend to like older cards because I like the rarity of the fact that the card is rare because not because there weren't a lot of them produced on the production line, but because just over the years, they've become scarce. So I like that. I like the history of older cards. I like the history of older players. I like the fact that some of the cards that I buy, when they were pulled out of packs or they were pulled out of boxes of tobacco or whatever it is, it was not intended to be a collectible item. It was never intended that this would be valuable. To me, that's what the fun part of the rarity comes in. You know, if I go and I watch somebody opening packs or doing a break or something, like you could do all day, every day, you can go to different Instagram accounts or YouTube accounts or whatever they all are and watch people opening packs. And the cards that come out of packs that have any value immediately go into protection. Immediately. To the point where some of these guys wear like gloves to make sure they don't even get fingerprints on the cards. These are cards that were produced to be collectible and to have value, and were immediately protected from any sort of outside influence. And that's fine. That's totally fine. And if people want to collect that, that's great. That's just not, generally speaking, the thing that is most interesting to me. Now, does that mean I don't have any autograph cards or any patch cards? No, it doesn't mean that. Now, I'm trying to think. I might have a couple of patch cards. I do have a fair amount of autograph cards. Now, to me, autographs fall into kind of three main categories. One would be in person, card was hand signed, I was there, I watched them sign it, I handed them the card, they signed it, they handed it back. And I do have some of those types of autographs. That is a type of autograph that I certainly collect and have some of. And I'll show you here in just a second. Then there is a category of autograph cards that I have in my collection that were through the mail autographs. Now, as a kid, I've mentioned this a few times. As a kid, I did a lot of TTM autographing. What I would do is in the back of the Beckett magazines, they had the address of all of the stadiums. So what I would do is I would just, on a whim, I had no idea who did and didn't respond. I would take cards, I would put self-addressed stamped envelopes into the mail. I'd send them off to the stadium with a card of the player and a little note asking for an autograph, and people responded. And I still have some of those childhood through the mail autographs to this day. And I got some pretty good ones. And then as an adult, I've sent off some cards through the mail to different athletes that I was hoping to get autographed. And some of them charge a small fee, some of them are free. And I have tried that, and I have some of those. So I have the autographs that were done on the card in person. I saw it happen, handed them the card, they handed the card back. Then I have some that were sent through the mail. But there are also some autographs that I have that are pack pulled cards. Now, have I ever pulled an autograph through a pack? Depressingly enough, not anything noteworthy. I don't open a ton of packs, but I have awful luck when it comes to packs, and I don't think that I really do. But I have bought some after the fact. So I do have some signed cards autographed by players that were then put into packs, that were then pulled from packs, and then I bought probably from the person who pulled it from a pack. So I do have some of those. I don't show them a ton. The main reason I don't really show them is because, again, that's not really the area that is the bulk of my interest, though I do like them. It's been a while, maybe a year ago, I showed some of these autographs, certainly not all of them. But here are some of my autographed cards that were either done in person, through the mail, or were pack pulled and I then purchased from somebody. So here are a few of my autographed cards in each of those three categories. Let's check them out.
All right. So these first ones are autographs I got in person. This is Arnold Palmer. I got after he finished the 18th hole of a golf tournament in Napa, California, probably 30 years ago. Longer than that, probably 35 years ago, on this Willie McCovey I got for free at a mall card show on a card. And then next, I got this Canseco. This is, a couple years ago at a local show he was signing. And I was like, man, I got to get his autograph on the Rated Rookie, the Grail card from childhood. I have more, but these are just a few. And then I have some pack-pulled autographs. Now, I obviously didn't pull this Oscar Robertson, but I bought it, and it came out of a pack of Immaculate. It's a beautiful autograph of one of the best basketball players of all time. And a few more pack-pulled autos. I got this Ozzie Smith. I bought this at a show a couple years ago. Not an expensive one, but cool nonetheless. This Ray Floyd, I bought this thing on eBay for like $7 probably 25 years ago, or whenever they came out. This Otto Graham I bought not that long ago. He signed a fair amount later in life, so he's a fairly affordable autograph. That is a pack-pulled one. Got this Bernie Williams autograph for about $12 at a card show maybe a year or so ago. And the same table, I got this Tino Martinez for $10 or $12. So I couldn't pass up those two Yankee legends for the prices that they were asking at that show. Now, the rest of these are TTMs. I got Chris Mullen. That one is from childhood. Dan Fouts is more recent. I got that signed. Lee Trevino, I got 2-3 years ago through the mail. Tom Watson sometimes signs through the mail. Got that a couple years ago. Robert Parrish, got that one a couple years ago as well through the mail. Got some more TTM, some as a kid, like the Mullen, some more recently. The Mike Mussina is a more recent one, as is the Eric Dickerson. Cool to get that on his rookie card. Wade Boggs charges a small fee, like a lot of these guys do. Picked that one up. Juan Marichal is still signing, and got that one maybe 3 years ago. Same with Ryan Sandberg. He charges a small fee as well through the mail. I go through a website called Sports Card Forum, and Brooks Robinson I got. That was a couple years ago. This Mike Schmidt I got as a kid through the mail. This Roger Craig was my football goat as a 49er fan as a kid. Got that at a card show for free. Ron Guidry signs for free through the mail. Goose Gossage charges a small fee, I think $10. Got that one. Just like this Dennis Eckersley, he charges a small amount as well. So a lot of cool autographs I've picked up over the years. Future Q&A. Have you or one of your friends ever unknowingly bought a counterfeit raw card? The card stock used in the 1960s to 80s timeframe lends itself well to fakes that are virtually indistinguishable from the real thing. We all like to think that we can spot the fakes, but modern printing technology makes it increasingly more difficult to just eyeball a fake without using a jeweler's loupe. Even veteran sellers can be fooled sometimes. Does the increasingly ability to expertly replicate cards concern you or increase your interest in having raw cards graded before purchase?
All right. Counterfeit cards. Have I or anybody that I know bought counterfeit cards? Well, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that I have friends, and probably even myself, have cards in my collection that are counterfeit or were altered. I mean, heck, there are times that some of the grading companies miss cards that are counterfeit. So if the quote unquote professionals are missing some of the counterfeit cards and they're getting through and they're getting slabbed, then there's no doubt about it that probably most of us have some cards that are not authentic. Now, specifically, have I bought a card that I know is counterfeit? I have one that I'm almost certain is counterfeit. I didn't know it at the time, obviously. I didn't pay a huge sum of money for it, but I'm pretty sure that I bought a card that was counterfeit. Now, there are some ways to prevent that from happening. And I'm going to show you the counterfeit card in just a second and why I believe it to be counterfeit. Okay. So the first thing that you can do, and to me, the best way to tell if a vintage card is counterfeit is to smell it. It's really, really hard to duplicate the smell of an old card. And what does it smell like? If you take an older card, and generally speaking, I'd say pre-1980 kind of falls into this category. And the older, the more it smells this way. But it smells like an old book. If you went to your grandma's house, if you went to a library and you opened a book that was 90 years old, and it has this kind of smell of like a little bit of a mildew smell or a little bit of a must, that is what an old card should smell like. So to me, the easiest way to tell if an old card is counterfeit is to smell it. Now, the another thing that you can do to tell if an older card is counterfeit or not is to give it the black light test. Now, I actually haven't done this, but if you, and you can look, there's a lot of people that are really good at this and they've made videos on this. Ryan Nolan, Breakout Cards, I've shouted out his channel so many times. He wrote a book on spotting fakes. But go to Ryan Nolan's channel, search for videos on spotting fakes and counterfeits, and he'll give you a whole tutorial on how to tell what's fake and what's not fake. But if you take a black light and you shine it onto a vintage card and it kind of absorbs the black light, that's generally an authentic card. And a card that you shine with a black light and it kind of reflects back the black light, that's generally a more modern card because it has a little bit of a gloss to it that you can't really duplicate or replicate. It was printed more recently than an older card. And that's another thing is you can kind of look at the shine on the card. So if you take the card, it's like sort of like the same way you look for a crease. If you look for, you look at it through the light, if it looks super glossy and shiny and it doesn't have a lot of texture to it, that's generally a counterfeit card that's made to look vintage. And then the next way to look at it is to look through a loop. And that's the reason I believe the card in question that I have is probably a counterfeit, is because of looking under heavy magnification, there's a way to tell. So most printing companies that are high quality printing, and cards were done with high quality printing, if you look under heavy magnification, the bold colors, generally speaking, are pixelated if it's a fake. Because generally speaking, counterfeit cards aren't done with the same high level printing as like a card company uses, like a Topps or somebody. So if you look under a loop and it looks pixelated, it's fake. If it's still solid under heavy magnification, it's authentic. And so let me show you the loop that I use, which actually was a recommendation from Orlando of A Collector's Dream. This is the loop that he recommended and I went out and bought, and it works great. And then let me show you the card that I believe to be counterfeit. It is counterfeit. And then let me show you under heavy magnification and how you can tell. And we'll take a look here. Now, I am not an expert at this, though I have been at card shows and I've had dealers ask me, hey, Greg, do you think this card is real or do you think this card is not real? And I told them what I thought, and there have been several cases I believe the card to be counterfeit, and I explained why. And generally, when you look under heavy magnification, the pixelation is generally the biggest clue, in addition to the smell. The hard thing is the cards from like the 80s and 90s aren't going to have that musty smell. So then you're relying on the heavy magnification pixelation stuff. So let's take a look at the card. Let's take a look at the loop. Let's take a look at why it's fake. Let's take a look.
So first off, the loop. Now, those jeweler loops are hard to use, but this thing is really easy to use. It's about $15 on Amazon. Per the suggestion of my friend Orlando of A Collector's Dream, I picked this one up. And it's great because it's got a light in there. It's got a little measuring device, as you'll see in a minute as well. Makes it easy to tell the centering on cards, but also to get a really good look at them. Very easy to use. Now, the card that I believe to be fake is this Steve Young USFL card. Now, you look at it, and I gave it the smell test, and it smelled like it had been around for a while, which it probably has. And the back centering is off a little bit. One of the tells on reprints and fake cards is they're usually perfectly centered. Now, the front is well centered. The back was a little off center, which made me think, okay, it's probably real. But at the time, I didn't have a loop. But if we look at this card under heavy magnification, so I'll get out that loop and we'll take a closer look at the card here. So I'll turn the light on and I'll set it right on top of the card. And as we get close here, you're going to see the color in the card. And you can see that there's a little bit of a pixelation in that solid yellow and solid red there. And that slight pixelation is generally a sign. There you can see it better there. See on that red how it's slightly pixelated. That's a sign of a lower quality print than you would see somewhere else. Now the TM is sharp, and the TM on a low quality reprint is usually not that sharp. But you see the gray helmet, how it looks pixelated? The blue on the side, that bar on the side, how it's slightly pixelated? The LA on the helmet, that's the sign. So those solid colors, just like on the blue there on the right, and the yellow and the red on the writing, that pixelation is the telltale sign it's a low-quality print. Great answers this week, Greg. Loved the personal finance talk. Here's a question. Often you have talked about how competition is good in grading, and I agree with you. Have you patronized some of the reputable but non-collectors-owned grading companies like Beckett and CGC, either by grading with them directly or buying cards in their slabs in order to support competition? Personally, I like getting BVG slabs since I think they are generally undervalued, but almost never see vintage cards for sale in CGC slabs.
Okay, I love this question because you guys are calling me out. You're holding my feet to the fire. You're saying, Greg, you claim that competition is good in grading companies. And one of the bad things about collectors owning PSA and SGC is it really eliminates the competition. But if you really believe that competition is good, are you buying cards in Beckett holders? Are you submitting cards to Beckett? How about CGC? How about some of the others? If you're not buying cards in those slabs and you're not submitting cards to those grading companies, then you're not supporting the competition that you think is good for us. That's fair. I think that is very fair. That said, if I have a card and the card is in a PSA slab or an SGC slab, and as a result of having it in those slabs, it's worth significantly more than one of the other grading companies, then I can't submit a card to a grading company simply to, it will cost me lots of money because it's worth less in those slabs just to say I support them. You know, I want there to be a lot of different restaurants that are available to people in the community that I live. But that doesn't mean if one of the restaurants is a bad restaurant, I should go and force down food just so that the company gets some business. I don't think that that's the point. I think the point is if we have options, it forces the companies to compete. And if one of the companies is buying all of the other smaller companies, then they've eliminated the competition. So I would say that the companies that aren't doing well because they probably are doing something in an inferior way. Now, there are a lot of people who like Beckett slabs. Do I own any cards in Beckett slabs? Yes, I do. Have I sent a card to Beckett? No, I haven't. But I have bought cards that are in Beckett slabs. And same with probably 5 or 6 different companies. Now, I also have to say that, a little over a year ago, I bought a card that was altered and was in a slab, a third-party slab, and it ended up coming, I cracked it out because I was going to cross it over, and it was altered. So I had kind of a bad experience with one of the third-party companies. Now, the third-party company in question paid me the amount they probably shouldn't have because I cracked it out. But they paid me for what I paid for the card because it was altered and it was in their slab and it wasn't designated as altered when they slabbed it. So they stood by their product. And if you wanted to hunt down below for the time I bought an altered card, then you can check that out down in my history of videos. But again, the company stood by their product. They paid me the money. They were totally cool about it. But so as a result, I have a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth about using some of the companies that I don't have as much of a relationship with. Do I think PSA is perfect? No. Do I submit cards to PSA? Yes. Do I think SGC is perfect? No. Do I submit to SGC? Yes. And then I've also had some people give me some heat because I've talked about not using Beckett. But then I've also mentioned that I think some cards look good in Beckett. I do believe that some of the modern cards, especially the patch auto cards, look really good in BGS slabs. I believe that. And if I was buying modern patch auto cards and I was going to submit them for grading, I would absolutely consider a BGS slab because to me, that's part of their niche is kind of like the patch auto stuff. But since I don't usually buy patch autos, and if I do, I don't buy them raw, I don't have a reason to submit them to BGS. But I have bought cards like that are already in BGS holders. So competition is good. I believe that. But I also believe that the companies in question, they have to earn my business. I can't just simply go to them because they exist and I need to say, well, I support competition, so I'm going to go to them. They have to prove to me that they're a quality product, that I need to go to them from one of the other companies. That's the whole point. They have to up the game to make the other companies lose me. Now, if there's a new restaurant in town and I don't really hear great things about it, I'm not going to go check it out just because it's a new business. If there's a new business in town that's a great restaurant and everybody's talking about how great it is, then I'm going to go check it out. So I kind of think that while I agree, it's fair to say, Greg, you got to support them or else there won't be competition. I also think they have to do some things to earn my business. If I'm going to the National, one of the things Tag did is they did some promotional things to get people to try Tag and get a Tag slab that I thought made a lot of sense. And as a result, I think there's some people that are going to try Tag that maybe wouldn't have. But some of these smaller companies, they do have to invest in their marketing and they have to find a way to convince me to try their product and not just assume that since I am pro competition that I'm going to go spend some money and get a card slab with them, making it worth significantly less than in a different holder just because I want to say I support them. So I hear the point. I get it. I don't think I should automatically be going around looking for new grading companies to submit cards to them just so I can be saying that I support competition. I think it kind of has to work the other way. They have to convince me. I don't have to convince them. And I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at. Maybe that's a bad argument. Maybe it's a good one. That's where I'm at. At the end of the day, I'm a collector. I want my cards to match the other cards in my collection. And I want to be putting my cards into holders that add value to my collection, not potentially lose value because I slapped them with one company over another. That's where I'm at. Anytime I spend money, I need to be adding value, not potentially losing value. And some of the third-party companies at the moment, if I use them, I lose value. And that doesn't make any sense with my limited funds to be losing value simply to say that I support them. That's my take. Now, with that said, 5 great questions. Loved all of them. I hope that anybody out there listening will take a second and consider submitting a question for an upcoming episode. I am slowly working my way through the list. I have questions ready to go for next week, and I'd love it if you submitted a question yourself for me to use and share my thoughts, whether they be good thoughts or bad thoughts. Thanks to everyone who submitted a video or a question for this week's video. And I look forward to hearing your comments on your thoughts of my thoughts down below.